All right, let's talk. If you're running a CPA firm, I bet you know this feeling. The work just keeps piling in, your team is constantly swamped, but when you look at the bottom line, the margins just don't match the effort. Today, we're going to dig into why the real path to profitability isn't about jacking up your fees, it's about completely rethinking how your firm's engine runs. Okay, let's get into it.
Sound familiar? Of course it does. It's the classic story. On the surface, the firm looks like a huge success. You're booked solid, clients are lining up. But behind the curtain, partners are stretched thin, teams are teetering on the edge of burnout, and every little bit of growth just feels heavy. This isn't a sign that you're failing, it's a sign that your firm's operating system is overdue for an upgrade. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because profit almost never vanishes in some big, catastrophic event. No, it's more like a slow drip. It just quietly slips away through the tiny cracks in our everyday operations. So in this explainer, we're going to go find those leaks and show you exactly how to plug them for good.
We like to call this the silent profit squeeze. It's that slow, steady pressure that comes from all the overtime, the rework, and the operational friction. The stuff that doesn't really show up on a P&L statement until it's way too late. It's all the things happening between the lines. Now, it's so important to get this. The issue here isn't a lack of talent. Your team is fantastic. The problem is the system itself. The pipes are leaking. And these leaks happen when your most experienced, most expensive people are stuck doing routine execution instead of high-level review, or when clunky manual processes lead to costly rework. Each one is just a small drip that when added up can totally drain your profitability. So naturally, the first instinct for a lot of firms is, well, let's just charge more. It seems like the simplest fix, right? But honestly, it's usually just a Band-Aid on a much, much deeper wound. Let's break down why this approach is so tempting, but ultimately so flawed. And this just lays it all out perfectly. Charging more? That's a temporary fix that can really strain client relationships. And more importantly, it completely ignores the root cause. You've got an inefficient delivery engine. It's just asking your already burnt-out team to run even faster. The real, sustainable solution is to run smarter. It's about fixing those systematic issues and building a foundation for healthy, profitable growth.
Okay, so this is where we have to pivot. We have to shift our thinking completely. It's not about working harder inside a broken system. It's about redesigning the system itself. This means we have to move from a mindset of we have to do everything to one of we have to design the workflow. This right here, this is the absolute core of the idea. The top firms are figuring this out. Quality control doesn't mean you have to keep every single task in-house. It means keeping the right things in-house, client relationships, strategic advice, the final review. But the execution, all that process-driven work, that can be systemized and handled with incredible efficiency. So how do we actually do this? We're about to look at 4 really powerful strategies that make up what we'll call your new operational toolkit. Think of these as the tools that are going to help you build that super efficient delivery engine we've been talking about. First up, white label services. Honestly, this is a total game changer. It lets you scale up your capacity for accounting and tax work without that constant, painful cycle of hiring. And your client experience, it doesn't change one bit. They're still working with you, with your brand. But behind the scenes, you've got this efficient engine handling all the execution, freeing up your partners to focus on that high-value advisory work. Next, let's talk about the beast, tax season. For way too many firms, it's just a brutal test of survival that completely destroys profitability and morale. Well, tax function outsourcing changes that entire model. By systemizing all the prep and compliance, you get your labor costs under control, you slash review cycles, and you turn the busiest time of the year into your most predictably profitable one. Now, this brings us to a more strategic, long-term play. We all know hiring is expensive and it's unpredictable. Integrating offshore tax consultants isn't just some seasonal fix. It's a core part of a modern operating model. You get consistent, year-round support from specialists trained in U.S. tax compliance, which gives you a massive advantage in the war for talent and scalability. And finally, let's look at an area that is so often overlooked, accounts payable. Yeah, it might not seem glamorous, but inefficient AP silently drains profit through late fees, manual errors, and rework. By outsourcing and professionalizing this function, you wipe out those hidden costs and you unlock your internal team's time for the strategic analysis your clients actually value.
So what happens when you actually put these tools to work? Well, this is where it gets exciting. The entire dynamic of the firm begins to shift. You start moving away from a culture of constant firefighting and burnout, and you move toward one of true intention and strategic growth. And this is the magic moment right here. When your delivery costs are stable and your capacity is scalable, the firm's leaders can finally stop putting out fires all day, every day. They get their time back. They can actually lift their heads up and start planning for what's next. The transformation, it follows a pretty clear path. First, you stabilize your margins. That gives you breathing room. That, in turn, frees up your leadership to think strategically, and that empowers your teams because they finally feel supported by a system that actually works instead of one that crushes them. All of this leads to intentional growth, growth that's driven by a clear plan, not just by the desperate need to take any work that comes in the door. So let's just leave it with this final thought. The goal isn't to be the busiest firm out there. It's to be the smartest. Real, sustainable profitability doesn't come from working harder or just charging more. It comes from designing a brilliant, efficient system that protects your people, delights your clients, and lets you scale with purpose. So the real question is, are you ready to build it?